Dear friends, welcome to Saturn in House 7 of your birth chart, Part 1. So, what results Saturn will give if it is sitting in the 7th house of your chart? Saturn in Bhrigu Nandi Nadi astrology is primarily the significator of your profession. It is called the Karm Karak. Saturn is also the significator of death, longevity, of sorrow, pain, reward, punishment. Saturn is the significator of justice, of time, of discipline. Saturn is the significator of law and order, of structure. Saturn is the significator of hard work, diligence, patience, perseverance. Saturn is also the significator of repetitive work. Saturn is the significator of darkness, secrecy, of fear. Saturn is also the significator of research, analytical skills and technology. So Saturn represents, the 4th grade staff or employees in any organization. It also represents the servants or helpers or maids, the domestic help. They are represented by Saturn, the scavengers, and all those workers who belong to the lower stratum of the society. Saturn represents them, the daily wage laborers. They are also represented by Saturn. Now, Saturn is in the 7th house of your chart. What is the 7th house? The 7th house is the house of desire primarily, because it is a calm Trikona house. Now, we know that in the chart of the Kalpurush, the signs number 3, 7 and 11, wherever they fall, those houses, they are the calm Trikona houses. And wherever the sign number 7 or Libra falls, that is the 7th house in the chart of the Kalpurush, which is one of the most important calm Trikona houses. Calm means desire. So 7th house is the house primarily of physical desire, sexual desire. It is carnal. It is the house of physical relationship. 7th house is the house of marriage. In the chart of the Kalpurush, Venus is the lord of the 7th house, and Venus is also the significator of the 7th house. So 7th house is the house of marriage, of marital relationship, conjugal life. It is the house of your spouse or life partner. Saturn is now sitting in the house of Venus, and Saturn and Venus are very good friends. So generally Saturn is considered to be good in the 7th house, but not for your marriage, unfortunately. Saturn is considered to be good for your profession or business, because 7th house is also the house of your profession or business. According to Lal Kitab astrology, the significators of the 7th house are Venus and Mercury. Venus stands for the relationship, especially with the opposite gender, or the relationship with the world, the society at large. Venus represents relationships, human relationships. And because 7th house is also the house of, business. So Mercury is considered to be the significator according to Lal Kitab. So Mercury is the significator of the independent business, which is also seen from the 7th house. Now friends, why 7th house is the house of profession? Because according to the Bhavat Bhavam theory in Parashari Jyotish, the 7th house is 10th from the 10th house of profession. So because it is 10th from the 10th house of profession, so it is also the house of profession. It is the house of business. It is the house of independent business, or the business that you do in legal partnership with someone. 7th house is also the house of your home and mental peace. Why? Because 7th house is 4th from the 4th house. And according to the Bhavat Bhavam concept in Parashari Jyotish, so 7th house will also now B, because it is fourth from the fourth house of the mother and home, so seventh house is also the house of your home environment, of your mental peace and mental happiness. Seventh house. Seventh house, what does it signify? Now, seventh house signifies primarily marriage, conjugal relationship. As I told you, it signifies any kind of, even sexual relationship. It also is the significator of your independent business or any kind of legal partnership in business. Seventh house signifies contracts, treaties, agreements, legal agreements. Seventh house is the significator also of foreign land and foreign travel. Especially when the seventh lord and the 12th lord or 12th house, they have some connection, then the native definitely will travel to some foreign land. Yes, and he will have foreign connections. It is seventh house is also the house of your daily income. It is the house of your day-to-day income, because independent business is also seen from the seventh house. The seventh house of your chart is the significator of your desire, and here it is, it's especially your carnal or physical or sexual desire. Seventh house. Now, Saturn is sitting in the seventh house. So, what kind of results you can expect? In Nadi astrology, we consider that Saturn will have a number of aspects. Saturn will aspect, first of all, the house in which it is sitting, that is the seventh house. Along with that, it will also aspect a number of other houses in the chart. So first we will look at Saturn's first aspect, which will fall on this particular house, which is the seventh house. That is Saturn's first aspect. And this first aspect in Nadi astrology is believed to be the most powerful aspect. But friends, before going to the results that Saturn will deliver in the seventh house, I want to tell you that it is also important to look at the sign, the zodiac sign in which Saturn is placed. Where that sign lord is placed, in which condition it is there in the chart. That is also very important. What relationship Saturn has with that sign lord, whether it is a friendly relation or inimical relation or neutral relation, you should see that. In which nakshatra Saturn is placed. Where is that nakshatra lord or star lord in the chart? In which house? In which condition? That also you should see. What relationship Saturn has with the nakshatra lord. All these things will influence the results that Saturn will now deliver in the seventh house. Which planets are aspecting Saturn? That is also very important. So you need to consider all these things. Saturn is the lord of which houses in the chart? Yes. For example, we know that for Taurus ascendant, Saturn is the lord of 9th house and 10th house. So Saturn becomes a yoga karaka planet for Taurus ascendant. Yes. So then Saturn in the 7th house, if Saturn is seated in this, for Taurus ascendant, if Saturn is in the 7th house, then Saturn will be the lord of 9th and 10th houses, then it will be very auspicious. So Saturn is ruling which houses in the chart? That is also very important. And friends, if Saturn is seated in the 7th house, and if Saturn is actually now, if you look at the chart of the Kalpurush, the sign of Libra is there. So you can say that in a way Saturn is in a very exalted position. no matter in what sign it is. But then Saturn is, after all, in the house of Venus, in the house that is ruled by the sign of Libra. So Saturn is believed to, give good results, especially pertaining to your profession, business. Saturn will give you good results. But results pertaining to your marital life may be either average or not good. Now friends, Saturn is seated in the 7th house. 7th house is a Kendra house. We have 4 Kendra houses, 1, 4, 7 and 10. According to Parashari astrology, if Saturn is in the 7th house, because it is a Kendra house, and if Saturn is in its own sign, that is either in Capricorn or in Aquarius, which is Saturn's Mool Trikon sign, or if Saturn is in its sign of exaltation or Libra, then a very auspicious yoga is formed. It is called Shasha Mahapurush Yoga. It is called Shasha Mahapurush Yoga. It is one of the Panch Mahapurush Yogas. It is called Shasha Mahapurush Yoga. If Saturn is either in Libra or Aquarius or Capricorn in the 7th house. So that also you should see whether this yoga is formed in your chart. Then definitely Saturn will give better results. And this yoga will work better if Saturn is seated alone. Because after all, Saturn is also the planet of isolation. Saturn does well when it is isolated. So, if Saturn is alone. Friends, you should also see whether Saturn is in conjunction with some other planet. That will also influence Saturn's results. Whatever results I will discuss now, they will be general results. But then you will also experience those results if you have Saturn in the 7th house of your chart. So friends, the thumb rule is obviously that if Saturn is in a good sign, that is if it is in its own sign, Capricorn or Aquarius or Libra, then generally Saturn is expected to give better results. Better results. I would say that even if Saturn is the 8th lord, Saturn might be the 8th lord and he might be in these signs, but then also it may be good because 8th house is also the house of transformation. So maybe Saturn wants you to transform yourself, and that transformation will be for your good, because now Saturn is powerfully seated in the 7th house. Yes, unless Saturn is under some malefic influence, then we can say that if Saturn is the 8th lord and there is some malefic influence on Saturn, then the native may have to face certain difficulties in his marital life or even profession. So Saturn also is expected to do well in its friendly signs. That is, Saturn will do well if it is also posited, if it is also in the sign of Taurus or Gemini or Virgo. Then also the results of Saturn in the 7th house will be good for the native. That is, what do you mean by good results? That is, if Saturn is in a good zodiac sign and if it is in a good nakshatra, then the marital life of the native, it may be even stable. Because if Saturn is powerful, then what will happen, friends? Then that will make the spouse of the native a very responsible and dutiful and loyal person. So the spouse will have all these qualities, and so there is a great probability that the marriage will last. And if Saturn is in good dignity, Saturn's 7th aspect will also fall on the 1st house. The 1st house is the house of the personality of the native. So the native also will be loyal, will be dutiful, trustworthy, will be disciplined, responsible. So there is a high possibility that the marital life will be successful in the long run. That is why Saturn should be well placed. If Saturn is not well placed, friends, if Saturn is in a zodiac sign, the lord of which is inimical to Saturn, then what will happen? Then there may be problems. Generally, there are problems in the marital life. Saturn after all is also the planet of impotency. Saturn, because Saturn shows age. Yes, it also represents aging and death. So Saturn is it represents someone who's very old and hence sexually weak or inactive. So if the spouse has such a problem, you can say that if the spouse is sexually inactive, then it may not be good for the marital life of the native, because if Saturn is seated in the 7th house, it may deliver such qualities to the spouse. Then the marital life of the native may not be a very happy one, because after all Saturn also shows coldness and dryness. Yes, so that may definitely create obstacles, and it may definitely create problems in the marital life of the native. So such natives are also, when you have Saturn in the 7th house, the native is advised to marry at a mature stage, and even the native's marriage also will be, there is a possibility that it might get delayed, because Saturn also causes delay. But the native is advised to be very careful before making any decision of marrying someone. Yes, otherwise later on if he or she regrets, then very little can be done, because marriage is after all a very important social institution. Yes, so before making, it's a very big decision of life, so the native should never be in a hurry, and he should be very careful before making that decision, so that he doesn't have to regret. Because now Saturn is there after all in the 7th house. Saturn is also the planet of obstacles, of limitation, restriction. Yes, so the spouse, the spouse of the native, may not be able to Saturn will now restrict the spouse, yes, from establishing a very beautiful, you can say conjugal bond. Otherwise there could be a very beautiful conjugal bond between the native and the spouse, but there will be something which will restrict the spouse, that also we can say. So there may be problems in the marital life. But if Saturn is in good dignity, then it is also seen that the spouse is very dutiful, very trustworthy, very hardworking, very disciplined, and very loyal and mature. The spouse is very mature. The spouse may be a little older than the native as well. Not always, but maybe. But even if not older, at least the spouse will be mentally very mature if Saturn is in good dignity. And then the marriage, will be successful. In the long run, it will definitely be successful. So, especially after the first return of Saturn, that is the first round of transit, Saturn will complete its first round of transit in 30 years. So after that, Saturn also grants the, maturity, yes, to the native. And definitely, that is why it is advised that the native should never make, any decision of marriage in a hurry. It's better to get married, say, after the age of 30 years. That is better. Then friends, Saturn, if it is in good dignity, it will be very good for your independent business or any kind of business that you do in legal partnership with someone, it will be very good. If it's in good dignity, the native will prosper and will make progress. That business will, enable him to become very prosperous in life. Yes, Saturn is also the significator of, house, of any kind of, construction, of landed, of Saturn is the significator of, you can also say Saturn is connected to real estate property and all. So the native will be able to own houses or buildings of his own. He will become prosperous. If Saturn is in very good dignity, he may have more than one house. Yes, all these things we can also say. Houses, vehicles. Saturn also signifies such, all these assets are also signified by Saturn. So the native will be able to have his own assets over time. Yes, and the native will prosper. A well-placed Saturn in the 7th house is very good for your profession. It's very good for your profession, for your independent business. It's great. But if Saturn is not so well placed, then what will happen? The native may encounter obstacles in the path of profession and business. Obstacles will be waiting for him. He will have to overcome them. Yes, there will be delay in, things pertaining to his business. In making business deals and all, he will experience a lot of delay in getting his, deals. In cracking any kind of business deal, there will be delay. So Saturn will cause, obstruction then, if it is not well placed. If Saturn is well placed, then the native's day-to-day income will also go up. His daily earning also will be very good if it is in good dignity. Otherwise, it will not be that good. The native will get the opportunity to travel to foreign land, especially for his profession or business, if Saturn is in good dignity. Yes, friends. So all these things we can say if Saturn is in the 7th house of your chart. Now, you see, friends, what are some remedies also for Saturn in the 7th house? The native should, not go into any kind of addiction. He should never be addicted to alcohol or to non-vegetarian food or tamasic food. He should not be addicted to all that. He should not be, involved in illicit sex. He should not be engaged in illicit relationship with other men or women. He should remain faithful to his partner, to his spouse. That is very important. Only then Saturn in the 7th house will give the native good results. Otherwise, there will be deficiency in Saturn's results, even if it is well placed. Then, friends, the native should also be, charitable towards the poor, needy, unprivileged, old, sick and diseased. He should involve himself or herself in charity. The native should involve himself or herself in charity, in donation, in whatever way he can. He should have this attitude of helping others. In whatever way it is possible, he should always help others. Then Saturn in the 7th house will definitely give the native very good results. Otherwise, even if the native does very well in his business or profession, and if he amasses a huge magnitude of wealth, he has a huge amount of wealth also, even then he will never be able to, enjoy that wealth if he is not willing to help others. If he is not helpful, if he is not compassionate, if he is not charitable towards the unprivileged and needy and old and sick, then his wealth will be of no use to him. He will not be able to enjoy that wealth. Maybe he will leave it for others, maybe for the next generation to do whatever they can with it. but he will not be able to enjoy his wealth if he is not charitable. So these things, you know, the native also should keep in mind. So friends, in my next video, I will talk about, that is part 2, Saturn in house 7 part 2. I'll talk about all the other aspects that Saturn will have. You know, Saturn will cast other aspects also on other houses of your birth chart. So what results you can expect from those aspects of Saturn, that will be discussed in part 2 of Saturn in house 7. So stay tuned to subscribe to my channel and share this video. Thank you so much.